Welcome back to my series going through the Freedom Constitution, better known as the Constitution of the Freedom Founders of the United States. In this video clip, we'll be covering Article 2, Section 1. And Section 1 is actually going to be broken down into a couple of videos because it is quite a bit longer. So let's begin. The executive power shall be assigned to the President of the United States of America. The President of the United States of America will remain in office during a term of 6 years and choose the Vice President of the United States who will serve during the same term. Okay, so much like today, the President is in charge of the executive branch of government, but in this Constitution it says for 6 years instead of the 4-year terms that currently exist. The Intercedent will appoint electors to each state who are equal in number to the number of senators and representatives that each state is entitled to, are current or former politicians, government workers, or government contractors, have an income that is within 20% of the median income for all citizens of the state, and have the median education for all citizens of the state. So let's cover A, where it says of senators, that has actually been taken out. So it's just the same number of representatives each state is entitled to. And then B, C, and D actually set some new requirements for the electorate. It says that the electors cannot be former politicians, government workers, or government contractors. They have to have an income that is within 20% of the median income for all citizens of the state, and that's to ensure that they accurately represent the greatest swath of people within the state, and that's the people who make the median income, and have the median education for all citizens of the state, which means they have to be appropriately educated in a way that represents the education level within the state. They can't have some advanced degree if that advanced degree doesn't represent the actual entirety of the state or the majority of the state. The electors will meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for one United States citizen who is seeking the position of President of the United States and United States citizen who is seeking the position of Vice President of the United States. At least one of the candidates must be from a state that is different from the state where the electors are meeting. So very similar to today, presidents have to be citizens of the United States, and electors have to vote for at least one person that's not from their state for president or vice president, and that's to ensure that no one state has a monopoly on the presidency because different states have different needs. So if one state has both the presidency and the vice presidency, the agenda set by that team may not represent a broad enough agenda to meet the needs of other states. The electors will make one list for all people who received votes for President of the United States and one list for every person who received votes for Vice President of the United States. The number of voters of each person received and published the final vote publicly within 1 hour of the conclusion of the vote. Each list will be recorded in a logbook held and secured by the state legislator. When the electors vote, they have 1 hour to publish their votes, so it's going to be very quick to see who won the state electorate. Those election results have to be published in or recorded by the state legislature. A signed certified copy of the vote will be securely delivered to the President of the Senate within the United States Congress's normal place of business. The President of the Senate will call the Senate to session. Upon receiving a quorum, the seal of the certified copy may be broken for public reading and counting, intercedent confirmation, and recording in the electors log. So after the publication of the elector results and the recording in state legislatures, votes have to be delivered to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate will open the sealed envelope, and the Senate will ensure that what they received and what is certified is the same as what's been publicly published, and they will duly record those votes in the Senate's logbook for electors, and the intercedent will confirm what they received is also legitimate. If the intercedent does not confirm the elector count due to a discrepancy between the publicly published results and transmitted results, the President of the Senate must request another transmittal of electoral votes from each state where the discrepancy has been raised by the intercedent. If the intercedent looks at the results from the Senate and looks at the results that were published by the by the intercedent and recorded in the state legislature, then the intercedent says, hold on, those are probably not the right results, or at least they may not be the right results, Senate. So you, Senate, must request another transmittal to verify the results. The intercedent may not refuse to confirm the count for any other reason unless there is clear and irrefutable evidence of fraud, forgery, or violation of this Constitution. So if the intercedent is having a bad day or just doesn't like who has been elected president or vice president, they can't say, wait, those numbers are wrong, Senate, please confirm. They can only do that if what's publicly published and recorded by the state legislature and what the Senate received do not match, or whether there's clear evidence of fraud, forgery, or violation of the Freedom Constitution. This just helps to make sure that if the intercedent is having a bad day, they don't take it out on the electorate or the Senate and say that they're refusing to conform to their requirements of confirming the electoral results. They can only dispute the electoral results if what's recorded in the state legislature and publicly published is different from what the Senate received, or in case of fraud, forgery, or violations of the Freedom Constitution. And it leaves fraud and forgery intentionally vague, so there is that flexibility for events or circumstances that can't possibly be seen by the writers of this Constitution. Once the electors log is updated, the Senate will confirm there is a candidate who received the majority of the electoral votes, and that candidate will become the next president of the United States with the chosen next vice president of the United States. If two candidates receive the same number of electoral votes, each member of the House of Representatives will cast one vote for one of the candidates who were tied. So what this is saying is that once the Senate counts all the votes and verified that they have the correct votes, they're going to declare the President of the United States. If there's a tie, they send the tie over to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives is responsible for breaking the tie. In this next part, we're going to get into further tie-breaking measures if there continues to be a tie. The candidate who receives the most votes from the House of Representatives will be confirmed by the Senate as the next president of the United States. If the House of Representatives vote results in a tie, the intercedent will create a special election in all districts where neither of the tied candidates received the plurality and assign electors to cast new votes based on the newly executed elections. So what this is saying is that if the House of Representatives has a tie, the intercedent creates a special election only in the places where the two people who are tied, neither of which received the most votes. So say that you have candidate A and B who are tied. Well, if candidate C received the most votes in any of the districts, those districts will have special elections where they have to choose between A and B. The new electoral votes will replace the former ones by being publicly published within 1 hour after the updated electoral vote concludes, securely transmitted to the President of the Senate, confirmation by the intercedent, and updating of the electoral log. If a tie results again, the candidate with the national plurality will be declared the next President of the United States. So what we see here is if the special election that just happened results in a tie again, the candidate between A and B who received the most total votes out of all citizens who voted in the United States will be the President of the United States. All right, we're going to conclude this part and we'll pick up part B, which will cover the second half of section 1 of Article 2. I hope to see you there.